the meantime, we're going to move on and deal with Article 4. We're going to skip over Article 3. It's another money issue, and I think we should wait on it until we get our conclusions with Article 2. I'm going to read Article 4, and please, excuse me, please.
Article 3 is dealing with $50 million from the reserve fund, which I would advise you to have nothing to do with the process. I would urge a state ordinance to go Article 3 and find the outcome of that.
I don't know what that is. The point that was made was that Article 3 refers to the Capital Reserve Fund and is not associated with the budget per se. And so the gentleman was happy with us keeping the articles in order rather than skipping to Article 4. Anybody else have any concerns about that?
It's actually not to do with $145,000.
Okay. I'm sorry, what? So you withdraw your suggestion? Let's deal with that. Let's deal with Article 4. There's no appropriation involved or anything of that nature. And please note this was presented through a citizen petition, and I have been advised by town council that this article is advisory only.
Article, and I believe the citizens have to speak on the article before council can make an opinion.
I think it has a status that can be made known. The citizens are going to have an opportunity to speak on it.
I think that they can make the status known after the citizens speak on it. That's the way that the Robert's rules work.
I think that's incorrect, and I think that my ruling is going to be that we will proceed as I have begun. I will finish what I started to say, that I have been advised that this article is advisory only and it is non-binding. That's the fact. I will read Article 4, that the voters of Guilford School District order the Guilford School Board to implement on or before July 1st, 2011, all provisions of Article 5 in the 1998 School District Warrant as approved by the New Hampshire State Board of Education and the voters on March 18, 1998, and to operate the SAU indefinitely under such provisions until the voters explicitly vote to rescind such plan. Article 5, 1998 School District Warrant read that the Guilford School District vote to accept the provisions of RSA 194C providing for the withdrawal of the Guilford School District from SAU number 30 involving the school districts of Laconia and Gilmanton in accordance with the provisions of the proposed district plan. Article 5 was recommended by the Guilford School Board, and the plan had been previously approved and certified by the New Hampshire State Board of Education per RSA 194C 4GI. The voters approved it by a vote in excess of the required 60% majority. Again, this was submitted by petition. Is there anyone who is going to move this article?
Mr. Moderator, I'd like to make a motion to move this article.
Thank you, sir. And would you please state your name?
Terry Stewart, Lane cross-link.
Thank you very much. Is there a second? There is a second. And would you mention your name again for the second?
Sure. It is Skip Murphy, Guilford Glen Road.
Did you get that? Thank you. And you wish to speak to the article?
Yes, sir. Thank you. The article, I'll describe the article's content here. The article's in two parts. The first paragraph is to substantiate the article, which demands the board obey the previous valid vote of the legislative body, the voters. The second paragraph is information only and provides the history upon which the first article was based upon. In 1977, Guilford started the legal process to create a single district unit. In accordance with the law, RSA 194C2, the operational plan must be created by an appointed committee, not the school board, and submitted to the State Board of Education for approval. The legally appointed Guilford SAU Planning Committee's operational plan is part of the 1998 school district record. It was approved by the State Board of Education and sent to the district together with certificate creating SAU 73. After the successful passage of Article 5 of the 1998 warrant, passed by a significant more than the 60% needed, it became the new constitution for the Guilford School District. The creation and authorization of SAU 73 by the State Board of Education was approved after the State Board was satisfied that the proposed operational plan met all its criteria. Therefore, the certificate issued to the district for creation of SAU 73 is predicated on the implementation of the SAU operational plan submitted by the SAU Planning Committee. That's binding on the district and the school board. Please read the statute, RSA 194C2, subparagraph 4, subparagraph H and I. You will note Article 5 in the second paragraph of our petition clearly states, in accordance with the provisions of the proposed district plan. That plan would be the Guilford SAU Planning Committee's operational plan submitted and approved by the State Board. This plan is still Guilford District's only legal constitution and should be available to the public for review. The article is not advisory, but mandatory because it is directing the board to implement a previously successful vote of the legislative body which the school board chose to illegally ignore, in our opinion. The 1998 Article 5, submitted by the Guilford School Board, was prepared using the statutorily prescribed language of RSA 194C2, subparagraph 4H. No wiggle room here. The school board was compelled to obey it. Not only was the plan previously approved by the State Board, it is the very reason for the creation of SAU 73. We recognize that there are no other districts operating without a superintendent. That is because those districts' proposals include a plan that does include a superintendent. Guilford's did not. In summary, the petition article is simply directing the school board to reverse its illegal action of December 1998 and obey and implement a previously successful and certified vote of the Guilford School District voters. It is not asking for anything new. If the board is allowed to get away with this transgression, as some may imply by judging our petition to be advisory only, then what's the purpose of these deliberative sessions or the town votes? The voters of the district convene as a legislative body in the March of every year. We have the absolute power to direct and mandate actions on the school board which are not contrary to law. That's precisely why we submit this article. This article cannot change the submitted approved operation plan either way. That still remains the Constitution that directs this school district. We ask the citizens of Guilford to please vote yes on Article 4 for those reasons. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else care to address this article?
Yes, Mr. Moderator, I'd like to. My name is Skip Murphy, Guilford Glen Road. I wish to speak in favor of this motion because it is plainly seen, as what Mr. Stewart just read in his remarks, that this is a previously approved plan, not advisory. It was done as a vote of the legislative body. And right now, you folks are the executive branch as pertaining to the legislative body. It seems to me that lately we have seen egregious versions of abuse by executive branches all over. And if Mr. Moderator would give me just a moment here and a little bit of leeway, all we have to do is look down to DC to see branches or departments of the executive branch that are no longer obeying the legislative will of Congress. We see the FCC trying to take over things that it cannot, by law, do so, and be buffed by the courts, and yet continuing on. We see the Obama administration continuing to push in other areas, such as the Interior Department, who has said we will stop drilling, and the court has. I have asked for that. What I am seeing here is a parallel, in that the legislative body has made its ruling, and all I'm asking is that the executive branch, in this case the school board, put that ruling into force instead of putting it off as it has been. We see a perfect time at this venture where Dr. Domenico, who has served well, is now retiring. This would be a perfect time to try and actually implement the plan that was already approved by a vote of the town folk of Guilford. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Barbara Lohman. I'm the school district's attorney, and I gave the opinion that the article was advisory and non-binding. The reason for that is that the plan that was approved by the state is a plan to allow Guilford to become its own SAU. I have taken a look at the plan. There is nothing in the plan that prohibits the school board from hiring a superintendent. There are many references in the plan to duties to be performed by an administrator. An administrator could be a superintendent in the first place. Secondly, when the state board allows creation of a plan and approves a plan to allow a school district to become its own SAU, all the state board is interested in is making sure that all of the services that an SAU is required by law to provide are being provided. How to provide those services is left to the SAU. And the suggestion that because some people may have thought in 1998 that the SAU was going to provide the services by hiring somebody part-time, by hiring a consultant, by hiring somebody else to do the superintendent services or to provide the superintendent services, in no way prohibits the school board from employing a superintendent, which it has always done. But I think the main point is that when a separate SAU is set up, when a school district is allowed to create its own SAU, the school board runs that SAU, and it's the school board that decides who is going to provide the superintendent services. And the school board has, in my opinion, clearly has the authority to decide that a superintendent will provide those services. In fact, the statute says that the school board must ensure that superintendent services are provided. The voters do not have the authority to require the school board not to hire a superintendent. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you.
Point of order, Mr. Moderator. I would like to ask that the specific references within the plan that legal counsel says does not require that the superintendent must be employed or can otherwise be ignored. I would like to hear the specific references within that plan at this point in time. Thank you.
I think that there's more than enough opportunity for anybody who is really interested in that information to seek it on their own. I think it would be a waste of all of our times and an unnecessary effort tonight. Excuse me.
Point of order, Mr. Moderator. I think this actually comes to the whole point of the citizens petition warrant, in that it speaks to the heart of the matter. and blithely saying that, oh, I've read the plan and it doesn't say that. All I'm asking for is confirmation of those points. Otherwise, why bother bring the petition warrant to the fore in the first place? And I do believe that if the school board is going to say that it is not required, all I want is legal proof by looking at the plan and telling us what parts of the plan give them that out. That's what this forum is for. This is the legislative body. Thank you.
I would make two suggestions. One, if this is information that you genuinely need, I certainly would recommend that you look at the plan prior to voting on March 8th. Secondly, the people who brought this particular warrant article, I believe, have just as much responsibility for making that information clear as anybody else does, but it's all in the plan, and we're not going to continue this meeting with the reading of the plan. Sir?
Can I speak on this yet, or do I have to wait?
Yes, you've got 2 minutes that you can speak, obviously.
Yeah.
Terry Stewart, Cross Lane. I agree with Mr. Moderator that the petition article is going to read like it does on the ballot, and council can say what she wishes. It is up to the citizens of this town to read for themselves the plan. And there's no such reference to a superintendent in that plan. And I have as many copies as available, and I believe that the school district should make them available to citizens seeking them. My understanding is they may have not been doing so, but if citizens can't find that plan, I'd be happy to give them a copy. And I recommend they definitely read the law. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Barbara Eichinger, Edgewater Drive. Well, my question is, yes, we can go home and read the plan, but we won't have the ability outside this forum to hear this attorney speak.
But you already did.
Well, the attorney seems to say that it says one thing, and they seem to say it says another. So if she could actually read from the plan the area that she's getting her interpretation from, I think it would help us all.
Thank you for your remarks.
If I could just explain, because I think perhaps you've misunderstood what I said. The plan repeatedly says administrator. It doesn't define who the administrator is going to be. Administrator could include, does include superintendent. A superintendent is an administrator. The plan doesn't specify that there will be a superintendent. It doesn't specify that there will not be a superintendent. It says that many of the duties that are considered superintendent services will be performed by an administrator. That's all I'm going to say on the subject. You can read the plan for yourself. You don't have to agree with me. I'm simply giving my opinion.
Okay, so you're saying the legal definition of administrator can be found somewhere, and that legal definition includes the title of superintendent?
A superintendent is an administrator. That is his job or her job. The superintendent administers the public schools. Yes.
So you're saying that's the legal definition in your opinion?
That is the definition of administrator as it is used in New Hampshire. It includes school superintendents. It also includes building principals. It includes assistant superintendents.
Okay, so you wouldn't consider at all perhaps the intent of the plan? You would just consider the legal definition, not the intent?
I really don't want to argue with you.
That's
I've
fine.
given you my opinion. Thank you.
Anybody else care to address Article 4?
Fred Butler on Yasmin Drive. I do think it's important what the ballot actually says, and there's no reference at all to a superintendent or the removal of a superintendent. And I don't think it's fair to suggest that the average voter is going to refer back to RSA 194C prior to voting based on what's on the ballot. The crux of the matter, I'm guessing in 1997, was that we removed ourselves from Laconia's SAU, and that is what I believe was important. I don't doubt the merits, the theoretical merits of no superintendent, but Failing any support from the school board or any administrator in the school, I would say it would be a bad move to move forward with this because it would be a lot more trouble than it's worth. And, that's about it. Thank you.
Joanne McNulty, Gunstock Hill Road in Guilford. I remember being there about that time. My husband was on the school board and was a representative out at the supervisory union in Laconia. And it seemed like at that time everything we brought that wanted to be voted on, it was a concern to Guilford, was voted out because Laconia had more votes than we did. And at one point we became so angry and disturbed at this always Laconia voting out whatever Guilford wanted to do in Gilmanton, that we boycotted the meetings so that the vote couldn't be taken because there was no quorum present. Caused quite a row at the time. And the feeling was at that time, and the intent of separating from the union was twofold. One was to be able to run our own matters the way we wanted to, which was very important to us. And secondly, to reduce the cost. Now we're running our own matters pretty much the way we want to. That's a given. But reducing the cost has been completely laughed at. That was the intent, to reduce the cost to the citizens for supervisory union services. And no way did anybody at that time think that an administrator was going to be paid like a superintendent was going to be paid. But that's happened in a lot of other instances, where we voted in one thing and had full intent of a certain procedure, and it has been turned into something entirely different. And so has the superintendent's position, and his staff, and all the responsibility and power that he has accumulated over the years. Thank you.
Thank you.
Elias Anderson, Hawthorne Way. It's interesting how we all remember things differently. I remember it because I was on the school board at the time. And one of the reasons that I remember, we split from the SAU with Laconia and Gilmanton was because Gilmanton and Guilford were providing more students than the school building could accommodate. So when the high school especially started to get filled up, Laconia suggested that maybe we should go off and find our own way. We proposed building a high school together with Gilmanton, Laconia, and Guilford, and that was turned down. So we somewhat reluctantly decided that we would form our own district and our own union, and invited Gilmanton to join with us, and they did. So as I say, we all see it differently, but there are a lot of different misinterpretations of what truly happened back then. But I don't think it has a lot to do with the discussion of whether or not the administrator is a superintendent or vice versa. It's as a former member of the school board for 9 years, I can't conceive not having a superintendent behind me, and especially when I was the chair. So it's very, very important, and this is a skilled job, somebody who's trained and has experience to run a school district. If we're going to talk about quality of life and quality of services to our kids, the superintendent is a big part of that.
Thank you. Do you mind giving Mr. Campbell an opportunity? Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Richard Campbell again. I wasn't planning to say anything tonight, but I was a member of that committee that worked on this thing back in 19, whatever it was. And I remember I remember going down and visiting with the Department of Education down there in Concord and getting some explanations of how we could achieve superintendent services without having a full-time superintendent, and putting that in the plan that we submitted. And I remember being very disappointed that the school board didn't adopt that part of the plan. They adopted, the severance from the other SAU went through. And I guess it was their prerogative, but it was certainly disappointing. And I would hope that now, with declining school population, that the board might reconsider and see if, look once more at the possibility of getting superintendent services some other way without a full-time superintendent. We could save that money.
Thank you.
Thank you. David Horvath, Timberlane, Guilford. Going along with what Mr. Stewart previously cited as far as the plan that was submitted, and regardless of what title we want to bestow on the person who's the head of the function, whether it's a superintendent or whether somebody as the key administrator for services, whatever hard hat, whatever title, becomes irrelevant when you look at the rest of the plan that was submitted and approved, and as Terry Stewart pointed out, is the Constitution that we are supposed to be going by. And there's very specific detail as to how the business of our time is supposed to be operated. Now, I personally, for one, tend to get pretty upset when legislative bodies, executive bodies go against the will of the people. And I'd like to remind everybody that we're a country of laws, of the people, by the people, for the people, not of the government, by the government, for the government. And so with that, I would like to throw in a couple other things. There's been other cases, and hidden in within this year's budget, whether it's good, bad, ugly, is regardless. We're, within this budget that's being presented tonight, we're going to a full-day kindergarten. Several years ago, the town voted against that, somewhere in the neighborhood of 500 to 1,500. But nonetheless, that's in there.
I'm sorry, sir?
I believe talking about kindergarten is off the subject.
I think he has enough leeway. I don't believe he's wandering too far from his intent. Thank you.
What this involves is bodies going against the will of the people. Now, I'm not saying kindergarten's good, bad, or ugly. I'm just saying it is people voted otherwise a while back, and now it's in this year's plan. The same could be said about football, when football came this time. Anybody knows me, I probably love football better, and as a Steeler fan, love football more than most people. So, given that, I still don't like when people circumvent the will of the people. So I bring that out. We do have an opportunity, though, to go back to what the people wanted, and I think that's the crux that's at issue. Stay with the will of the people. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else care to speak?
Terry Stewart, Cross Lane. I think it should not be lost on the board and legal counsel that this plan came drafted with the Smith-Kenney report, which is also available. And the Kenney portion of that report was Edgar Kennedy. He was a close friend of mine, close friend of our families, and he was a superintendent of schools. You would have thought that if a superintendent writing the plan would have thought that a business administrator could be both a superintendent or a business administrator, he would have left the word superintendent in the plan. He purposely wrote it out of the plan because that was the idea, one of many, to better manage the district. I'm not going to judge whether it would be a good thing or a bad thing. I'm just saying that's the law. And you can call it a business manager and still pay him what you pay Dr. Domenico if that's the case. But that would be following the law. Thank you.
Thank you.
the old Ormity, Wild Acres Road. If I understood Mr. Campbell correctly, I believe he said he was disappointed by the school board's decision to not follow that, but also recognized that it was their prerogative. So I think that really is the point. It is the school board's prerogative. I elect this school board in 2011 to administer the school that my kids go to in 2011. They weren't even in kindergarten in 1998. Further, you know, it's a nation of laws. It's also a nation of elections, and we have had 13 opportunities to replace the school board with a board that would have followed whatever prerogative this group wants to follow. And that wasn't taken. So what I'm looking at now is, I've looked at this a number of times, and we reviewed it in the budget committee as well. I'm still not clear what this is asking me to do. I suppose I do have to go home and read exactly what this provisions were. But for the average voter, it's completely unclear. So we're asked to vote on a petition that's completely unclear and, in my personal opinion, rather poorly written, to roll us back to something that happened 13 years ago. And I just don't think it's reasonable. And I think it would have gone a further distance had those who wanted to write this petition just come right out and said, this is a petition to do away with the superintendent's position, instead of the muddy language that we see here now.
Thank you. Anybody else? Please.
In 1998, the Guilford School Board made the decision not to go with the recommendation to operate the school district without a superintendent. The rationale was that such a model was unproven. It's not being used by any other school district in the state of a comparable size, and the school board at the time felt it was not in the best interests of the students or the citizens of Guilford to go with that model. The current school board feels the same way. It is not prudent to go with a model that has not been proven to work. Again, 13 years after that, there is still no school district in the state of New Hampshire of comparable size, and even many school districts much smaller, to include school districts that only have one school, still have superintendents. In my background in the military, I can't see where you would have, let's run an infantry battalion, let the 3 company commanders run things without a battalion commander. That's what this suggestion is. We let the 3 building superintendents run the school district, or 3 building principals. The 3 building principals have way too much on their plate to begin with right now, and then to ask them to do the additional superintendent services is unreasonable, and you need to have a leader in any organization. And that's what the superintendent does, and that's why this current school board unanimously agrees that moving to a model without a superintendent would be a bad idea.
It appears that there's no further discussion on Article 4, so the discussion is closed. Let's go back to Article 2. I have the balloting results on the amendment to Article 2. If you recall, the amendment was to change the operating budget to lower it by 10% to $21,847,147. The balloting, there were 81 votes no, 19 votes yes. The amendment is defeated. Is there any further discussion on Article 2? It appears that there is none. The discussion is closed. We're going to move on to the the last article for discussion tonight, Article 3. Article 3 reads as follows. Shall the Guilford School District vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $195,000 for the replacement of the 3 boilers at Guilford Elementary School and authorize the withdrawal of $50,000 from the Capital Reserve Fund created for that purpose. The balance of $145,000 is to come from general taxation. Is there someone to move this article?
Mr. Moderator, I so move the Article 3.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Yes, Mr. Moderator, I'd like to second the motion.
Thank you. Is there any recommendation or discussion from the Budget Committee?
The Budget Committee recommended this.
And does anyone from the school board wish to address this before we open the floor? Very good. Then does anyone care to address Article 3? I'm guessing the answer is no. If no one cares to address Article 3, then I am going to close the discussion on Article 3, and I am by declaration going to close this meeting. Thank you very much for your attendance.